So a huge update in the Paige Bueckers situation for the UConn Huskies. And Paige Bueckers is somebody that got injured. She got injured in her last game.
Update on superstar basketball, collegiate player Paige Bueckers, the UConn basketball star, suffered a big-time injury in her last game against Villanova. And I'm here to tell you, Geno Auriemma dropped some updates on us. Now, those of you guys who might not know who Paige Bueckers is, she's expected to be the number one pick.
Update on superstar basketball collegiate player Paige Bueckers, the UConn basketball star, suffered a big-time injury in her last game against Villanova, and I'm here to tell you Geno Auriemma dropped some updates on us. Now, those you guys who might not know who Paige Bueckers is, she's expected to be the number one pick in a 2025. Did Geno Auriemma make the biggest mistake of his coaching career with Paige Bueckers sidelined once again and Caitlin Clark? Breaking records, a legendary coach's decision is under fire. Like never before, let's dive into this explosive situation.
Comparisons are kind of the bedrock of sports talk, so I'm never going to get mad at them or get tired of talking about them. I mean, I think LeBron James and Michael Jordan will probably be debated for the rest of eternity. In the women's basketball world, it's now everybody who's next with Caitlin Clark. And trust me, it would be great for women's hoops and for the media industry if
What's up, Basketball Nation? Today we're diving deep into what might be the biggest what-if story in women's college basketball history. We're talking about a decision that could haunt one of the greatest coaches of all time, Geno Auriemma's choice of Paige Bueckers over Caitlin Clark. And trust me, this story has more layers than you might think, to the fact that it's a high bar to reach. These aren't just things you can speak into existence, and you know with Paige...
The fact that it's a high bar to reach. These aren't just things you can speak into existence. And, you know, with Paige specifically, she just got the Nike deal. She's very marketable. That is for sure. She's going to be the number one pick in the WNBA draft. But sometimes I feel like people move the goalposts a little bit when it comes to Caitlin, where, you know, she doesn't have a national championship and that's held against her, but you don't hear that with the others. Or she already proved herself in the WNBA and you don't hear these doubts.
Specifically, she just got to the Nike deal. She's very marketable. That is for sure. She's going to be the number one pick in the WNBA draft. But sometimes I feel like people move the goalposts a little bit when it comes to Caitlin, where you know she doesn't have a national championship and that's held against her. But you don't hear that with the others, or she already proved herself in the WNBA, and you don't hear these doubts about others. Let's roll back the clock to 2020. Picture this: Geno Auriemma sitting in his office at UConn has what seems like an impossible choice to make two generational talents.
So basically, all I'm saying is I would love to be able to debate Caitlin Clark against Paige Bueckers and then eventually Juju Watkins. But when it comes to what's actually taken
on the table, Paige Bueckers, the smooth operator from Minnesota, and Caitlin Clark, the sharp shooting phenomenon from Iowa. Both players he has wanted to wear that prestigious UConn jersey. Both had the potential to be all-time greats, but only one could be the future face of the program. So basically all I'm saying is I would love to be able to debate Caitlin Clark against Paige Bueckers and then eventually Juju Watkins. But when it comes to what's actually taken on place on the what's really interesting about this situation is how different these two players were. Even back then, Paige was a more traditional choice, if you can call a player of her caliber traditional. She had this incredible court vision, played with a smoothness that reminded everyone of Subbird, and seemed like the perfect fit for UConn's structured system. You know how Geno loves his disciplined play, right? But then there was Caitlin Clark. Even in high school, she was doing things that made coaches' jaws drop. She was pulling up from the logo before Steph Curry made it cool in the NBA. Her style was more freelance, more explosive, and maybe, just maybe, that's what made Geno hesitate. Here's where things get really interesting. I've talked to some sources close to the UConn program, and they tell me that during the recruitment process, there was actually some debate among the coaching staff. Some assistants saw in Clark the potential to revolutionize the college game. They recognized that basketball was changing, becoming more perimeter-oriented, more focused on dynamic scoring. But Geno, being Geno, stuck to his guns, and let's be honest, at the time nobody questioned that Paige Bueckers was a consensus number one recruit. She was supposed to be the next Diana Taurasi, the next Breanna Stewart, the chosen one who would keep UConn's dynasty rolling. When she committed, people were already penciling in future national championships. But here's where the story takes its first major turn during Paige's freshman year. Everything seemed perfect. She was dominating, winning National Freshman of the Year, making highlight plays, doing everything you could ask for. Meanwhile, Caitlin Clark was putting up massive numbers at Iowa, but people kind of dismissed it. Oh, she's just getting stats on a lesser team. They said, man, how things have changed. The real drama started during PA's sophomore year. That knee injury, you remember it. It changed. Everything while she was sidelined. Clark was beginning to show that her freshman year wasn't a fluke. She wasn't just scoring. She was revolutionizing how people viewed women's college basketball. Those deep threes, they became must-see TV. Let me tell you something that not many people know. During that period when Paige was injured, Geno had a private conversation with one of his longtime assistant coaches, a topic whether the game was passing them by. UConn's traditional system built on discipline and structure was starting to look a bit outdated compared to the freewheeling style that Iowa was using with Clark. This brings us to the financial impact, and folks, this is where it gets really wild. Do you realize that Caitlin Clark's games are now drawing TV ratings that rival some NBA games? We're talking about viewership numbers that would have been unthinkable in women's college basketball just a few years ago. Every Iowa game is an event. People who never watched women's basketball before are tuning in just to see what Clark might do next. Meanwhile, UConn's ratings, while still strong, haven't seen the same explosive growth. And this isn't just about TV, it's about ticket sales, merchandise, social media engagement, everything. Sources tell me that some UConn boosters are privately expressing concern about the program's direction for the first time in decades. But here's what makes the situation even more complex. It's not just about basketball anymore. Both Paige and Caitlin have end deals, but the gap in their earning potential has become significant. Clark's ability to stay on the court and consistently produce highlight reel moments has made her arguably the most marketable college athlete in the country, male or female. Now let's talk about playing style for a minute. UConn system under Geno has always been about precision, about making the right play, about playing the game the right way. And when Paige is healthy, she executes this perfectly. Her basketball IQ is off the charts, her decision making is elite, and she makes everyone around her better. But Clark's style, it's revolutionary. She's shown that you can play with flair, take those long-range shots, and still be incredibly efficient. She's not just scoring, she's changing how people think about what's possible in women's basketball. And here's the kicker, she's doing it while being incredibly durable. The durability factor is something that nobody really talked about during recruitment. How could they? Both players had been healthy throughout their high school careers, but in college basketball, availability is sometimes the best ability. While Paige has struggled with injuries, Clark has been an Iron Man, playing heavy minutes and carrying an unprecedented offensive load. I've heard from sources within the basketball community that this contrast has led to some serious soul searching within the UConn program. The question isn't just about Paige versus Caitlin anymore, it's about the future of women's basketball itself. Is the old school structured approach still the best way, or is it time for even the most traditional programs to embrace a more modern dynamic style? The impact on recruiting has been fascinating to watch. Two high school players are watching this situation closely. Used to be if UConn offered you a scholarship, you jumped at it, no questions asked. Now some top recruits are looking at programs that offer more offensive freedom, more opportunities to play that exciting modern style that Clark has popularized. Let's talk about leadership styles too, because this is something that often gets overlooked. Both Paige and Caitlin are natural leaders, but they lead in different ways. Paige is more of a traditional floor general, directing traffic, making sure everyone's in the right spot. Clark, she leads by example, by taking and making those big shots, by playing with a confidence